Turkeys, Muppets in space, and tennis players. What do they all have in common? Well, they're all examples of bone density and how we can improve bone density. So, way back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Wolf, a scientist in Germany, discovered that if you put bones under stress, they will get more dense, they will increase their mineralization and will get harder. And as a result, you'll have less brittle bones, better bones. So what he did, was one of the methods he used to prove this, was working with a couple flocks of turkeys. He put one flock of turkeys in a turkey coop, chicken coop if you wish, out in one area, and on the other side he put another chicken coop, turkey coop, with another flock of turkeys. But the difference between the two was, they were both outside, but the difference was that the one group, this group over here let's say, when he set them up, he buried a large metal plate underneath the ground, down a little bit, because turkeys like to grub around in the dirt. So he buried this plate down underground a little bit, and it vibrated at a very high frequency. In the meantime, over here, this is the control group, those turkeys were just on a normal ground with no vibrating plate. Before he started this test, he had checked the bone density of the two flocks of turkeys and found that they were pretty much the same. And then he turned on the vibrating plate and let the turkeys be for a period of time. And so these turkeys with the vibrating plate, they carried on life as normal, and the ones over here without the vibrating plate, they went on about their own business as well. After many months of living on a vibrating plate, living on a normal ground, the bone density was checked again. And they found that the turkeys that were on ordinary ground without a vibrating plate, they had similar bone density to what they had before the experiment started. The turkeys over here with the vibrating plate, now vibrating at a much higher rate than my hand is going, they had a much higher bone density. There was a significant difference between the bone density for these turkeys and the bone density for the ones that were on dirt and no vibrating plate. So this supported his conclusion that if you put the bones under stress, they will increase in density. They will get stronger. So that was Dr. Wolf's analysis, experiment, and conclusions. There are several examples that support this. One of them is, well, the first one is actually a negative example, and this is the Muppets. The Muppets in space. So really we're talking about people, Muppets, or humans, or animals that are sent up into space for an extended period of time where they're not around, the gravity has no impact on them because they're orbiting the Earth and they're constantly falling. They just never fall back to the Earth. They're falling in a circle around the Earth. So there's no stress on their bones from gravity. And what they found when these people, animals, Muppets, come back from space, that their bone density is significantly less. As well, their muscles have atrophied as well. So this is a negative example that if you do not put the body under stress, the bones will get less dense. Now, the third example, tennis players. This is a positive example. There's been analysis done of professional tennis players. These are people that whack a tennis ball all day long, every day. And so the arm that they are using to hold the racket and hit the ball, they did analysis of that arm compared to the other arm, which is doing nothing but hanging around, whereas this arm is busy holding the racket and hitting the ball. And so what did they find when they looked at that? I bet you already know the answer to that. They found that the tennis player who was hitting the ball all day long, that arm was much denser. had a higher bone density than the other arm that was just hanging around and around for the ride. So hitting the ball causes stress on the bones. If you've ever played tennis and done a whole lot of serving or rallying, you'll know that there's a lot of vibration going on in this arm when you hit that ball. Not much on this arm. And since both arms are attached to the same body, you can look at it and go, well, if this one's more dense and this one's not, it has to do with putting stress on the bones in this arm that made it more dense than the bones in this arm. So very much in one individual, you can check one arm on either side and go, there's a difference. This one's more dense, this one's not. And why is that? We're putting this arm under more stress. So this is all very interesting. We've demonstrated that if you put turkeys on vibrating plates, their bones will get denser. If you put Muppets in space, well, their bones will get less dense. And if you play a whole lot of tennis, well, one arm is going to get more dense than the other arm. This is all good stuff as far as getting better bones. And what we're going to demonstrate today is a couple different ways that you can use Qigong to improve your bone density as well. We're going to look at some stances that will put stress on the bones, and we're also going to look at some individual Qigong movements that causes stress on the bones as well. And then finally, we're looking at our third thing, which is bone tapping. So let's get on with it and have a look at the various stances that can put stress on the bones. So there are all kinds of stances in Qigong. For example, this is one of them here. I call it the narrow stance, where the feet are outside of hips, outside of legs, outside of feet, one above the other, and the knees are slightly bent. And of course, we're holding ourselves upright, which requires us to put some stress on the bones. But this is sort of a ho-hum thing. What we're going to look at next is 3 stances that do put stress on the bones, but particularly the legs and the hips, and a bit into the spine. So the first one we're going to look at is horse stance. So for horse stance, you move the feet out 45 degrees, and then you move the heels out again 45 degrees on the other side, and then we move the feet out once more and put the heels behind. So this is typically how we get into horse stance. So horse stance, the shoulders fit inside the feet, and there's space as well. And also, we've talked about before stacking of the bone stance. Well, we can't get our hip over our ankle because the feet are too far apart. You want to have the feet parallel, and you want to have the knees coming forward. So when we are in horse stance, we're lowering down and we're lifting up. And so to lower down, so you pull the belly button in, you tuck the tailbone in, you lift ribs, creating space in the abdomen. And now you bring the knees forward. So you want to check the knees as they come forward. You want to have them come over the big toe. You want to keep the shoulders over the hips as we lower down. And you're going to feel the muscles going, oh, I'm trying to hold up here. These muscles are putting stress on our bones. We pull the belly button in, we tuck the tailbone in, and so we're holding the torso over the hips as well. So let's look at it from the side. So again, the feet are roughly parallel. You tuck the tailbone in, you pull the belly button in, you lift the ribs, bring the knees forward, and we lower down. And so we're here, and we lower down like so. This is horse stance. So we come down, and we can hang out here as well, and you can bring the hands in front and stack them up like so, and we can just hold here. And we're putting all kinds of stress on the arms and the shoulders, the spine, and the legs as well. The legs are the most noticeable. Now, there is a movement in one of the Qigong series the king rides his horse with fiery eyes, which is a good one to use to put some stress on the bones to help make them stronger. So king rides his horse with fiery eyes. You take this hand, you palm up, light fist. So just close the thumb and the fingers together and come here to the top of the hips. Hold this hand up about shoulder height. Our feet are in horse stance here, so you pull the belly button in. Inhale here. You bring the hand up to the wrist. Turn the hands over. Pull them back to the wrist. And so as the hands come back, we sink down. Inhale, we rise up. And exhale, we lower down again. So inhale and exhale. So this movement is putting stress on all of our bones, in particular the thighs, the hips, the calves, well, and we're also doing the shoulders, the upper arm, and the lower arm, because we're holding them, the muscles are holding them in place. And having the muscles engaged puts stress on the bones. You can also put stress on the bones by just hanging out and holding still right here. But it's kind of boring. So we add in, king rides his horse with fiery eyes. So you come up and we come down. Exhale, we lower down. Inhale, we come on up. And once more here. So let's have a look at this from the side, and then we're going to move on to our next example of a stance for stressing the bones. So we're here. We lower down. We come up. And we lower down on the opposite side. And we'll do one more cycle. King rides his horse with fiery eyes, horse stance, and moving up and down in horse stance. So if you do 9 repetitions of this, to give you, like, how many should I do? Well, 9 is an excellent number, so strive for 9 of those. The next stance we're going to look at is stacking the bones. And then we'll use a movement that incorporates that particular stance as well. So we're here in the normal stance, the narrow stance. And we step out to the side a little bit. Now, how much is enough? This is how you find out. This leg straight, this leg bent. Lower the hips a little bit. You want to get the shoulder, the ribs, the hip, the ankle, all in a stack here. And I can't go any further. So the hips are over the ankle. This is the key. This is a stack of bones. Then we come over here and we have the same thing going on. So the leg is bent. The leg is bent. This one's straight. This one's bent. And we're moving from side to side. Dragon plays with the ball. Red dragon plays with the ball. So you come over here. You put weight in the heels, and we hold a ball up here. Now, because the leg is bent and we're holding our arms here, we're putting stress on the bones yet again. Put weight in the toes. Push with the toes, we come to the center. Land in the heel, let the hips turn, let the torso turn, the ball rises up. This leg is bent, this one's straight. The muscles are pulling on the bones to hold us in place, putting stress on the bones. We come here to the center, and we come up to the opposite side. We come here, and we rise up. So exhale, we come down, push with the toes, land in the heel, the hips turn, the torso turns. There's a whole lot going on, but at the same time that we got all this movement going on, we are stressing the bones. We're putting the bones under stress, which, as Wolf said, increases the density of the bones. and has been demonstrated by the Muppets when they go into space. Well, actually, it's really astronaut. It's not Muppets. Cosmonauts, astronauts, whatever you want to call them, the people that go into space. So this is another technique that we can use to increase bone density without just hanging around saying, okay, well, how long do I have to stay here? Well, let's add some movement to this and make it less painful, less boring. So weight in the heel. Shift the weight into the toes. Push with the toes. Land in the heel. Shift to the toes. Push with the toes. Land with the heel. And the arms are moving along in concert with that. Shift the weight into the toes. Push with the toes. Land in the heel. So we'll do one more cycle like this. There we go. So that's stacking of the bone stance with some movement involved again. So the next one we're going to look at, and the last one in this section, is called bow stance. And so for this one we're going to do a movement. It's called ride the tiger. So for this guy, I'll do it facing straight on, and then we'll do it looking at either side. So we're back here. You turn this foot a little bit to the side. You dot by the heel. You follow the direction the foot is pointing in. You come here, you come over here, and you bring the head, knee, ankle. So this has got the feet set up so we have some space between the feet. But for bow stance, we need a much longer stance. So we're going to move it forward a little bit. So we're here, head, knee, ankle, and you take the leg that's forward. You bring this hand up here by the forehead. You bring this hand down by the knee, and you look to the side. And you may want to, and the more space you get between the feet, the more you lower the hips down. And we're here in bow stance. This is ride the tiger. Another way to get into this is we start in horse stance. We shift all the way to this foot. You take this foot and we turn it so it's pointing that way. And we have a little bit of space here. Now, we shift the weight here. You take this foot and you turn it so the heel is further back. The foot's at 45 degrees. This one's straight ahead. And we lower the hips down. And you want to get the knee. This is not the knee, this is the head. The knee, the ankle, and the head, all in a stack here. So we're leaning forward. You're looking to get a straight line, back a head, back a hip, and heel, all together in a straight line. Now, bring the leg that's back. Bring that hand by the knee. Bring the other hand up by the elbow. And look off to the side towards this way, towards the open side of the body. And we hang out here for a couple breaths. So this is putting stress on all of the bones in the body. We're holding the body up here, so all these muscles are engaged in holding us in place, so they're stressing the bones. We have the arms involved as well. We're holding them in place, so they're getting stressed also. We're leaning forward, and so all the muscles in the back are pulling on the ribs, pulling on the spine, pulling on the hips. So this is a pretty good one. And for a difference, we're just holding here for a series of breaths. Then we come up. Now, you take this foot, bring it back here. You take this foot, and we turn it as... And now we're going to go the opposite way. Shift the weight here. Take this foot and point it towards the curtain. And you bring it back a little bit. Take this foot, point the heel towards that curtain. And now we're in bow stance. Lower the hips. Eventually, we get the thigh parallel to the floor. We don't need to do that today. The hips are facing this way, more or less. Press into the back heel. Now, we look to the open side. This hand is down here by the knee. So this is the open side, so that arm is here. The other arm's up by the head, and we look off to the side. And we hang out here for a couple breaths. Push into that back heel. Make sure you have a straight line from the back of the head to the heel. And now we come up, turn this foot so it's parallel, and bring this foot forward so now it's parallel as well. And we'll do it once more on this side, and then we'll wrap up by looking at the other side. So this is horse stance. To get into bow stance, we go to half horse to begin with. So shift the weight to this leg. Take this foot, point it this way, and move back a little bit, so that we have several boards between the feet. And now I'm looking this way. Take this heel, turn the foot so that the toes are pointing off to the side. We're avoiding twisting the knee. The head, knee, and the ankle all in the stack. Open side, that arm is low, the other arm's up high. We turn the head and we look to the side. And you hold here for a couple breaths. And then we come up, fix this foot, fix this foot. We're back in horse stance. We go to half horse, shift the weight. Take this foot back. Take this foot, we turn. Hand, the leg that's back, that hand by the knee, other hand up by the elbow, and we look to the side. And we come back, bring the feet parallel, and we bring the feet back together. So far, we've talked about Wolf's Law, putting stress on bones, turkeys, Muppets in space, which are really people in space, and tennis players. And we looked at the stances, 3 stances: horse stance, stacking of the bone stance, and bow stance, all of which put stress on the bones, which is what Wolf's Law is all talking about. There are 2 other categories that we're going to cover, but not in today's video. Vibration. So recall, Wolf had his turkeys on a vibrating plate. So in our next video, we're going to do vibrations as well. You're not going to have to put a vibrating plate in the floor of your house. And then after that, the third thing we're going to look at is bone tapping, and how to do it, and how it increases your bone density as well. So that's all we have time for today. See you next time.